Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Not Your Average Bros. I'm the Blonde Broker.
I'm Ashley Decan.
And we have another exciting episode lined up for you guys. This is with the CEO of Polygon Labs, Marc Boiron. He's about to come on stage, but first, a message from our sponsor.
Slingshot.
Welcome to Not Your Average Bros.
Powered by a slingshot.
Oh, Ashley.
We're not talking about this slingshot.
Oh.
Or this. We're talking about the Slingshot app. Making an account is easy, and so is loading up your wallet for your first trade with either Wallet Exchange or Apple Pay, among others. When you're ready to buy, you can slingshot yourself to financial freedom.
Not Your Average Bros is sponsored by Slingshot.
Slingshot, baby.
Dude, I see you.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Not Your Average Bros. I'm the Blonde Broker.
I'm Ashley Decan.
And we have a very special guest today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the CEO of Polygon Labs. This is Marc Boiron. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, of course. So right off the bat, we kind of want to get to know you, let our audience get to know you, how you got started in the space, and then maybe we'll go into your role at Polygon Labs.
Yeah. Cool. I don't think my story is that interesting because it starts off as a lawyer. But yeah, so in late 2016, kind of understood Ethereum really well. I'd spent a lot of time looking at it and decided I wanted to spend my time in crypto. And so decided I'd start doing legal work in crypto and did that did that for whatever, six years or so until once I was the CLO at Polygon, decided to become the CEO when that was kind of offered to me and took that on. And I think like the most interesting journey from like a legal side is probably that starting in like early 2019, I started doing like all the legal work for Compound Finance, that is. And then started doing a lot of the legal work for most of the DeFi protocols in the space. And I think at a certain point I had something like 80 clients and got totally burned out and said, I'm going to leave that and go to DYDX and be the chief legal officer over there until I joined Polygon. So that's really like my story. Not that exciting, as I told you.
No, I mean, you have a very decorated background. I was an electrical engineer, so I kind of come from I don't know why we're calling ourselves like boring in the past, but definitely I think what we do now is way more fun.
Oh yeah.
It's all relative. And it's definitely boring compared to what we do now.
So your position as a CEO, because I know you haven't always been in this role, what are you kind of doing for the company?
Yeah. So obviously that's just focused on kind of getting us strategically in the right direction. So one of the big things that when I took on this role, like one of the things that people probably remember, actually, if you go way back, Polygon was really like a place where you farmed Matic on Aave, like total for defense, and that's what it was. And then it kind of like transformed into trying to bring in all of like the normies into crypto through like partnerships with big, enterprises. And, then FTX happens. And when FTX happens, everybody's suddenly scared of the place, of the space that is. And so we ended up kind of pivoting. And that was when I took on kind of the role of trying to like bring us back to those like roots that we have. And so, I spend time like a lot on like internally, like really getting us back to like that way of thinking. And then externally, like building products that do that, marketing us in a way that is like consistent with how we are. Because a lot of people think of us as like kind of staunchy corporate company, which is like not even close to accurate as to what we are. And so, yeah, that's kind of like really it. It's like trying to help guide us there.
I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job. We were just with the entire Polygon team and at the Magic Eden Villa this week during Art Basel, and there was definitely not that stuck-up, stingy corporate vibe.
We especially enjoyed the Courtyard partnership with the Pokemon packs. We're big fans of Pokemon.
Yes,
so very cool.
So
I was like really pumped when the team brought that. I'm like, this is like the kind of shit that I like want. Like, go do some like crazy things. Like who thinks like it's a good idea to go buy like a massively expensive Pokemon card and sell it? And the answer is like Polygon. It's like, why not? Which is awesome.
Well, I think it brought a lot of eyes to you guys too in the moment, because a lot of crypto, the audience was there during the Pokemon era. So it was very heartfelt. And I know you guys in the past, you've had these partnerships with like Meta and Nike. So it's kind of cool to see what we saw this week.
The more fun transition from normies to still kind of millennial nostalgia.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And look, that's the goal. And you could see from like the people that you hung out with over there, like we got a lot of fun people who kind of bring that vibe, which is always great, honestly. It kind of like seeps out from internally to externally, which I love to see.
One of the things we were kind of curious about, because I know you have a lot of exciting things coming up, including mainnet, we wanted to touch on Agglayer, and we were hoping that you could kind of simplify what that is for maybe our audience that has no idea and what they can kind of look forward to when you launch in January.
Yeah, so I'll try not to take too long, but I think we can simplify this to the point where we say, look, when you think of the internet, you just go from one web page to the next web page. You don't worry anymore about it like loading fast enough or content like not finding the content that you want, or that like the content that used to exist isn't going to exist anymore, like all that kind of stuff. And when we think of like Web3, we're at a point right now where that's not like really true, right? Like you go to like one chain, it gets congested, and then you can't seamlessly go to another chain. And if you think of like Web3 as being like this way of like actually having the internet, but an internet of value instead of an internet of information, you want to have that same like experience as the internet of information. The only way to do that is to actually be able to scale to the same size of the internet and to make it feel the same way. And so when it comes to scaling the size of the internet, you can't do that on one blockchain. People talk about it all the time. Can Solana scale to the size of the internet? Can Aptos, can Sui, can Polygon POS? Like, no, it is impossible. Like there's a boatload of things that people want to do on the internet, and it is never happening on just one chain. So you get to this world where you assume many, many chains are going to exist. And that's great because that means you can actually create this user experience that is like actually scales to like them using it. And you can get like this, let's call it sub 2-second transactions that we target in Web 2. You can get that in Web 3 on like any chain. The problem that you create with that though, is now you're like, okay, but this feels really fragmented. It's like, I have to figure out how to go from one website to another. That's ridiculous, right? You shouldn't have to do that. And so the Agglayer is all about bringing it all back together. It's all about saying, okay, we have all this fragmentation. We can now scale. We can create this good user experience, but not across the whole internet, only across one part of the internet. And so let's bring that across the entire internet. And that's ultimately what the Agglayer does. It basically says, hey, we've got 10,000 chains, 100,000 chains eventually. Let's allow you to go from one to the other seamlessly, so that when you decide that you want to send your NFT representation of a Pokemon card from Polygon POS to Xlayer, you can do it without even knowing you're doing that, right? Yeah. All you're interacting with is your wallet and nothing else. And that's exactly what the experience should be like. And that's the intention behind the Agglayer.
I like that because I actually had a little bit less of an understanding. So I feel like now I understand, because I was going to ask you to explain it like I'm 5, and I feel like you did. So I love that.
I think we did like the 7-year-old version. I think 7-year-old was a good target.
It works. I guess in terms of scalability, what are some other areas of improvement that you see, and what are you guys working on?
Yeah. So I think a few things. Like right now, the way that we've scaled is scaling through like what I'll refer to as like general purpose chains, right? If you look at like most chains that you interact with, you're like, okay, so I go to Polygon POS, I could do like everything under the sun there. I go to Solana, I could do everything under the sun there. But if you really think about it, they're not actually great for any one thing. They're like okay for a lot of things. And if you really want to scale, which really implies bringing in users into Web3, whether that's DGen users or non-DGen users, you got to create something that is actually the experience that they want. And so when you think about that, you can think about this, gaming has done actually a good job of this, right? Whether it's like, Immutable or Ronin or Moonveil, like there's a lot of different plays on like, we're going to build a chain that is going to be so simple that somebody who just plays video games can actually use this chain and they don't need to know anything about Web3. But we haven't done that as much across the board. Like if you look at like DePIN, there's basically no chains that focus on DePIN. Even DeFi, like DeFi's the biggest area after maybe stablecoins that has like product market fit. And you basically have like 2 or 3 chains that are actually DeFi centric. And so like, I think that the way that we actually see that scaling is by focusing on specific use cases that actually brings people in. And then you can test whether the technology is scaling. And so that's something that we're like doing on Polygon zkEVM. Effectively, what we'll be doing with that one is really turning it into a super DeFi-centric chain. And there's going to be a lot that goes into that, both from like the technical perspective as well as like mechanisms that create like the interesting things that degens want to do in DeFi that'll be like inherent in the chain. And then similar things on like Polygon POS is starting to like build it in a way that is actually much more centric to like the consumer and payment experience that it's like amazing for and has, right? Like whether you look at like Polymarket or Courtyard or just transferring stablecoins in general on Polygon POS, it's a super easy user experience. And so like, it's really like scaling by focusing on like actually what users like want and apps want in those chains, rather than just frankly, like let's create some block space that people can use and like, it's all the same.
Okay, so you're doing a lot there that we can look forward to. How are you guys going to go to market with this? What is kind of the next marketing strategy? We know what it's been like in the past, but how's it evolved over time?
Yeah, we've noticed a change in your tone on Twitter or X, where you seem to be like more getting into the shit posting era of Polygon, and we love that.
You mean Polygon bringing hentai to X is a surprise?
Yeah.
DJ.
Yeah. I think like so we're getting into like this interesting era where like Polygon's got like, well, really internally, we're focused on like creating multiple brands, right? So like when everyone thinks of Polygon, they think of Polygon POS. It's like one chain and that's it. When we went to build out the Agglayer, one of the things we did very, very intentionally was actually not brand it anything Polygon related. If you actually look, like there's an Agglayer Twitter, it says nothing about Polygon in there. It's literally just the Agglayer. And the reason for this is it's actually intended to bring like all of Web3 together in the way that I was describing earlier. And if you create like a Polygon centric band, like it's going to be very hard to be like, hey, Arbitrum, Optimism, Solana, why don't you all come use the tech that we're building? Instead of creating something neutral that basically says like, hey, everyone can benefit from this technology. And like the technology in the way that's built doesn't actually benefit us over you all. Like everyone's kind of actually treated the same. And so that requires like one kind of like brand to be built around that is like very different from like the Polygon brand, right? And so if you look at the Polygon brand, yeah, I mean, look, we've basically been focused on reversing the way that people saw us, right? And so, look, like if you want to focus on a Web3 audience, you got to give the Web3 audience like what they want. And this is something that like I repeat to the team all the time and I'm super focused on. It's like, just give people what they want. And the truth is in Web3, whether we like it or not, like people often like talk about Web3 as if like we need to bring in these outside users and like bring them in. And like the reality is like that'll come with time, but give the users what they want. And today's users, they want to have fun, they want to speculate, and they want to make money. That's like actually the reality of Web3. And like people hate when this is said, but like that is actually true. Now, I think those things are going to evolve into something that is like fundamentally more. And like there's nothing wrong with those 3 things, by the way. Gaming, like half of gamers just like go there to like make money in one way or another, or the fun part of their experience is actually like the money making and the loot boxes and those aspects of gaming more than it is the game itself. And so like when you think of that in the context of Web3, it's like, okay, what's wrong with that? And so a lot of that marketing and branding is really focused, or in like Polygon as a name is really focused on that. And so then when you think of like the full go-to-market strategy, it's actually carrying that through. It's actually targeting that set of users who says, hey, I really want to have fun and I want to make money. And we will create infrastructure that lets you do that.
Polygon fun again.
That's going to be exciting. Make Polygon fun again. I love that. I'm stealing that. Can I steal that?
Yeah. Awesome. We want a little credit. Ashley comes up. She actually came up with the name of our podcast, Not Your Average Bros.
Just, you know, just randomly, just in conversation. So,
and it was beautiful. Like we'd been.
I mean, it actually is. It's beautiful because like I was contemplating the meaning of life when I saw this, and I was like, "Am I an average bro or am I not?" It's very.
You're definitely not. Yeah, maybe as a lawyer, but not now.
Okay, awesome.
Leveled up. Mark, are you a gamer? I have a feeling you're a gamer.
I'm not a gamer, actually.
No.
No, I'm not a gamer. Yeah, I love, like, okay, I should say, I love gaming, but I am not a gamer. I don't like to do disrespect to people in that way. Like, if I call myself a gamer and then you play a game with me, you're gonna be like, hell no, you're not a gamer,
Yeah.
right? But I do love playing games. They're a lot of fun. Honestly, I just don't have time for it. Is the unfortunate part of it. But it's fun.
You are kind of busy, so you're doing a lot. You're running,
Just a little.
Running a huge company. We kind of talked about, we do want to bring in more users, right? And we got to give them what they want. When it comes to mass adoption in Web3 technologies, what are kind of some of the barriers that you're seeing, and what are you guys doing at Polygon to kind of eliminate those?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I think the barrier that most people have told you for a long time is regulations, right? And look, I don't think we can hide that is still true, but I think people are feeling much more positive about it today than they were, what can we say, a month and a half ago or so, pre-elections, right? And so I think that's one barrier that over the next year, we're gonna see lessened to some degree. The second barrier has always been reputation, right? It's tons of companies thinking that if they really lean into Web3, it's going to be bad for their reputation. And we saw this actually big time in the gaming space, right? If you go back maybe 3-ish years ago, maybe 2 years ago, there were folks getting into gaming or companies, and users were just revolting. And a lot of it was blockchains aren't green, things like that was
I went to GDC,
motto around.
hated Web3, hated it.
Yeah, absolutely hated it. And so I think that's something that's going away, right? When you start seeing everyone under the sun talking about BTC hitting 100K, it's very hard not to say that the space is crossed a chasm where people are starting to be okay, cryptocurrencies they're really, really actually here to stay, and we don't need to worry about it. I think once you start seeing games having Web3 games having real success. I mean, I think we saw this recently with, what was it called, Proof of Play, something like that. I think things like that, and I think there's Polymarket is another amazing example of one that crossed that chasm. And so I think we're getting to a point where that reputational risk is pretty darn low right now. And so now it comes to Web2 companies saying, okay, I can bring my user base to Web2 to Web3 without significant risk. So let's do that. And the nice thing is, I don't think we've historically in Web3 had a great, honestly, UI, UX developer base. Honestly, I think it's been pretty restricted, and you see what we've built, and it's okay, these are okay experiences, but they're not amazing experiences. I think that once we start bringing these Web2 brands into Web3, they're going to reimagine what experiences should really look like. And that's where you're going to see users who start interacting with blockchains in a way that they don't even really notice. And then suddenly you introduce one feature. And I could give an example of this, not my favorite way, but an example would be a Web2 company that issues some NFT that allows for doing something. Okay, this was a very typical thing 2 years ago. And they, yeah. But then they never go a step further, right? And I think then there's Reddit did a good job of this, where it was kind of their avatars were non-transferable, and then they opened it up and started saying, okay, now users, you can actually start transferring these things. And right now what you've got is a nice UX that and UI through a wallet experience that's really been thought of from a first principles perspective with current technology, and that actually allows users to interact in a way that is actually easy, and they were onboarding in an environment that they're comfortable with. And that's when you start getting people to be oh, I understand this thing, I'm comfortable with this thing, right? And then you figure out key storage, you keep improving on that. And you get to a point where users start saying oh, this is part of my everyday life, I'm okay with it, because they were slowly introduced to it, instead of throwing it all at them at once and them being holy shit, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah. What would you say your dream Web2 partnership would be?
Ooh. Wow, that's actually a really good question that I've never actually thought of. Dream Web2 partnership. This is a really hard one. I'd have to go like the payments route, which is like, I really fundamentally believe that like we should be able to, so like I got into crypto because of like, it's like call it like semi-anarchist roots. Like I love just like censorship resistant, like transfer of money around the world. We in the US are way too privileged to understand its meaning in any way whatsoever. But like the impact that it has like globally is like incredible, right? And so like for me, like the idea of being able to like send money incredibly easily anywhere in the world, and then let those people on the other side of the world, and this is the key part, it's not the Web2 company on our side that's actually that important. Like that part's like easy, we already have it. It's on the other side, on, you know, in Africa, in South America, whatever it is, that has integrated merchants into their network so deeply that people don't, like right now when you make those payments, you go and you transfer it into your local currency or somehow into USD, or you keep it in like USDC or USDT, and you can't really use it too much. Like it's getting better, but like it's really those Web2 companies who have like onboarded merchants in a major way and who say, okay, you can now accept this form of payment, being USDC or USDT, without ever needing to like leave that application. A good example of this would be like PayPal in like our Web2 world. I think PayPal has the power to like completely transform this space, by the way. Like, and so maybe this would be a good example. Like PayPal has relationships with, I don't know what it is, like 70, 80% of merchants in the developed world. I don't know what in the developing world. It's like a massive percentage. All they need to do is flip the switch, right? They already have PYUSD, their stablecoin. All they need to do is flip the switch and say, hey, merchant, so you, okay, you know how when you go to like a local store and you're like, hey, if you pay me in cash, you'll get like a 3% discount. But if you pay me like credit card, you won't. PayPal just needs to do the same thing, which is like use PYUSD, and merchant, you get a 3% discount, or merchant, you can pass the 3% discount off to customers. And now all the customers are like, oh, I actually have a reason to pay with crypto, because otherwise you don't have a reason to. Like it's pretty easy to just pay with PayPal. And so you go ahead and you actually transfer funds using USDT, USDC, whatever stablecoin it is, and suddenly you've got this like amazing adoption across all of these merchants around the world. And suddenly everybody knows what paying in a stablecoin is. They know that it saves them 2-3%, whatever it ends up being. I'm sure PayPal would want to keep some percentage of that. So it saves them 2% instead of paying 3%, whatever the percentages are. And now everybody suddenly is onboarded to making payments in crypto. They all have wallets, and now game's on in terms of like actual mass like adoption.
Yeah, like I actually never really thought about PayPal like that.
Yeah. I use it for everything, honestly.
Yeah, same. Do you see any other industries as untapped opportunities for blockchain technology?
Oh, wow. I think there's very few, honestly, industries that we haven't tapped into in crypto, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like if you actually look at things realistically beyond stablecoins and DeFi, like demand has actually been relatively low in Web3. And what that's resulted in is like Web3 developers like scouring the earth for every use case possible. I think the difference is like what use cases have not proliferated that should be able to proliferate. I think that's like the interesting aspect of that, right? And I think the one that's like most top of mind is like DePIN. Like DePIN's like an actual true amazing use of the technology. And you incentivize certain behavior in a way that you'd have massive difficulty incentivizing usually, creating networks that can be adopted, you know, all around the world, creating whether it's better experiences or cheaper experiences around the world. Like that, to me, people talk about it enough, like a decent amount, but like not enough. There's just so much more to do in DePIN, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ashley's actually wearing a DePIN device right now, her Kudos ring. So it's
I love it.
Our sleep and steps
all
on the blockchain. I'll send you one. We can send you one if you want.
Yeah.
Send me one. Why not?
We'll get your ring size. It's helped us like stay fit. But yeah, we totally see like DePIN just continuing to evolve. At first, it was like, what does this buzzword mean? And then you started seeing actual conferences like DePIN Day and spaces. So everybody was kind of trying to get on board. I have one more question. Do you have any more questions?
I do have one question. So we got a little bit of a rumor about the Outback situation. I don't know how aware of it you are, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the unknown secret is that Polygon has the best social team in all of crypto by a mile. But not everyone feels that way, because one person decided that they should take our intern out back and shoot them. And in fairness, that was not really an appropriate comment to make whatsoever. But our intern and social team, being who they are, being awesome, basically decided that they were going to pin that message as our banner on X, and then lean into it and started memeing everything around Outback, the brand Outback specifically, and going Outback. And so that's actually where that comes from. But I thought it was just awesome, honestly, that they leaned into it. The person who said it is somebody we actually know well, so it wasn't actually a scary thing. And so it's perfect that the team leaned into it, notwithstanding that it was completely an inappropriate comment in the first place, to be abundantly clear. Totally unhinged. And so I've been waiting for Outback to reach out and ask us for a partnership of some sort, because we've been promoting them pretty darn well, actually.
That would be nice.
But
free gaming opinions for life.
Oh yeah, I would take that, no problem.
I actually almost sat on the little Outback stuffed animal that we had at the Polygon house. He was in the interview chair and almost crushed him. So it's a good thing I didn't. But yeah, that's why we were kind of hey, what is this? And they were no, don't sit there.
Respect the Outback. Respect the Outback.
Well, I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to touch on. I have one final question for you, but I wanted to give you a chance to there's anything else you wanted to
share
about,
anything,
or
any secrets?
No, I think the biggest one, people say this all the time, but I really mean this, which is the first half of next year is going to be a crazy one for Polygon. I view it as Polygon completely reinventing itself because it's needed to, and we will finally see that come to life in the first half of next year. And it's going to be very much in line with giving people what they want in the most real, authentic way possible, and they're going to see that. And so I'm very, very pumped for that.
Yeah, amazing.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited to be part of the process. All right, Mark, my last question for you, and this is a big one. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Okay, so here's a really disappointing answer, which is I do not care about legacies. I think ego is just have zero ego. It's literally I say it all the time, you can step on me all day long, you could crush my face, I don't care what you do, I'm just gonna win. And so if you want to look at a legacy, it's I'm just gonna win, period. And so I don't know that I care for it for legacy purposes. I care for it because I just love to win. And so that's really what we're gonna end up doing.
No, I like that. I feel
Polygon is winning.
Polygon's winning. I feel that couldn't have been a better answer. So thank you. And we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the pod. And I know we're probably going to get to talk to you again soon. Hopefully meet you at a conference coming up, maybe.
Yep.
The Outback awesome. Together. We'll go to Outback together. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's going to be awesome. As long as I can get some blooming onions, I'm going to be happy. So Thanks for having me, by the way. This is a lot of fun.
No, thank you so much. And nice to meet you. We appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all for tuning in to another amazing episode. Make sure you're following our socials on X and Instagram at Not Your Average Bros.
And YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe.
We love you all. Thank you.